Hey everyone, welcome to DittDott, a cooking and product review channel. My name's Amanda. On this video, we're going to be making Italian wedding soup. I live in the Pacific Northwest and today has been so rainy and cold and it is perfect for soup weather. So today, actually I don't know traditionally what kind of meatballs are in Italian wedding soup, but today ours are going to have chicken meatballs. So I've learned for myself that I don't really like, ooh, that's loud. I don't really like most meatballs, but one of my earlier videos on the channel, I'll see if I can find it and link to it. I just happened to make these chicken meatballs one day and I fell in love. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. It's not that I don't like meatballs. It's just that I don't like beef ones. I love chicken meatballs. I even tried making turkey meatballs once. Wasn't the same. I like chicken ones. Okay, I'm glad I saw that. Let me wash my hands. Okay, so I have a pound of the ground chicken and I'm going to season it with some pepper, salt, onion powder, garlic powder. Ooh, that's a lot. I like garlic though, so that's okay. You can also put some just fresh garlic in here, it'd be good too. And just Italian blend. Always smell your herbs. If they don't smell good, then that means they're probably on their way out. And then I'm gonna use panko breadcrumbs because these are left over from my chicken katsu video. And I should have just enough. Sometimes I put eggs in my meatballs and sometimes I don't. So I'm gonna start without, see how if I want to this time. Put down below whether you put eggs or not in your meatballs. I'm kind of curious. So I'm just going to mix this up and then I preheated my oven. My oven has an air fryer feature, so I'm using that. Otherwise you can bake these meatballs also, or you can cook them in the skillet. I have a cookie sheet with some foil that I sprayed. I like to use this really small cookie scoop. Now, for these meatballs, because they're going into soup, I want them to be very small and bite-sized. So what I do is I just lay down a whole bunch of them without forming them into meatballs. This is the way to kind of work quickly, and having this scoop allows you to just grab some and then click it out. And then once I have the tray, filled up, they're gonna take up more space this way because they're not formed into little balls yet. But once I have, let's say the whole tray is done, then I go back and tighten them up into nice little round meatballs. If it just goes faster if you do one step and then follow back through with the next step. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill this tray up and be right back. For my blind viewers, in this scene, I'm filling up my tray with mounds of chicken using my scoop. All right, I'm almost done here. So using the scoop does a couple things for you. One, it made it really fast to make these meatballs, but two, it helps keep them a very consistent size, which will help in the oven. So I'm going to pop these in the oven because they're so small. They won't take very long. I'm guessing about 12 minutes, but we'll check on them. They need to get to be 165 degrees because it is chicken. And while they're cooking, I'm gonna show you this cute footage of our new pet that we got. I'm gonna clean up and get the next round of ingredients ready. This is, well, y'all have all met Watson before, but this is our new puppy, Milo. He is a 1-year-old Aussie Doodle that we are working to train as a service dog for my son, Ira, who is autistic and ADHD. So I think if you've seen some of my recent videos, you have seen that he's trying to go out Watson's doggy door. You have seen that both my twins and myself all got diagnosed with autism and ADHD. Anyway, back to cooking, but I just wanted to introduce y'all to sweet Milo. He's so adorable. I actually forgot one more thing before we put them in the oven. We're gonna go ahead and spray the top of them also with an oil. I'm using a coconut spray, but that's just because that's what I have. While the meatballs are cooking and before we get to chopping up some of our vegetables, I'm going to talk about this Israeli couscous that we're going to add to the soup. So I buy this in the section of my grocery store that has more like Mediterranean foods. My grocery store has different sections, but this is the Israeli couscous is bigger pearls of couscous than what a lot of times that you see in the like American side of the grocery store, which are these tiny, tiny little bitty couscous. I don't think those would stand up as well in the soup, but if you can't find this couscous, which it's just a type of pasta, then any small pasta would be a good substitute for this soup. Often I'll use dittolini, it's one of my favorite shapes, but just any tiny little small pasta would be good. So I'm gonna go ahead and follow the package directions on this couscous in a separate pot. That way I can add it to my soup and it won't get overcooked. So I'm gonna chop about half an onion, maybe I'll use a little bit more. And then I've got about 3 stalks of celery, and then I'm gonna just use up the rest of this bag of shredded carrot that I have, but you can also just like dice up some carrot too, and then fresh garlic. So just gonna chop everything up nice and small, and then we'll heat over by the soup pot. In this clip, I am dicing up onion into very small pieces and also dicing up celery, cutting off the ends first. I think celery is one of my favorite vegetables to chop. There's just something so satisfying about being able to run your knife across it so quickly. Now, a lot of times I will go ahead and chop up the celery leaves. I think they add really good flavor, but these are kind of wilty looking, so we're gonna discard them today. Okay, so you can see the steam coming up from my couscous pot that's on this left burner. And I'm going to turn this one on and throw in a little bit of olive oil just on the bottom there. And then we're going to add in these vegetables. We're going to give these a chance to soften a little bit. And it's almost time to check on our chicken meatballs. Oh, they smell so incredible right now. Okay, so let's go ahead, just throw everything in here, and we're gonna stir it and let it soften. Soup is so easy to make. Doesn't have to be fancy. We're gonna add some seasonings to this. Okay, a big dollop of garlic. Give these a good stir, and then we'll check on our meatballs. So the bottom side is gonna have a nice good browning on them. So I'm just gonna go ahead and flip them over and put them back in the oven for just a few more minutes so that they can get browned on another side. That way they just don't look quite so lopsided. And they will be done. They don't have to be all the way cooked because we are going to put them in the soup, although I do feel like these are pretty close to being done. Okay, now let's go ahead and we're going to repeat some of the seasonings from our meatballs into our soup. A little bit of pepper, some salt. Oh, I just spilled some. Italian seasoning. Okay, I'm not going to put the garlic because I did the fresh garlic, but well, I have onions too. But you know what? I like repeating the vegetable plus the powder because the powder will break down into the broth, and I just think it makes the broth so much good. Okay, and then last I'm going to add some dill. I don't know if this is authentic or not, guys. I get inspired by recipes, but very rarely do I actually do something authentic unless I'm purposely wanting to learn something new. Oh, my couscous timer. I hate it when everything seems to come together all at once. Okay, I'm gonna lower this. I'm gonna check on my couscous. Oh, look at that. They're so big and plump. They do need, I'm gonna add a pat of butter and some salt to them. This was 1 cup of couscous. You might want to double it if you're making a big pot of soup. This will be plenty for what I'm doing. Back to our soup, which is looking like this, and we're going to add, guys, it's almost done. A few more ingredients, and then we'll be ready to let it simmer and call it a night. So my vegetables are softened up. The onions are getting translucent, and I'm going to, this is a partial box that I already had open in the refrigerator, so I'm going to add that. And then you can either add water to it if you don't want to use all of it as chicken broth, but I've got another box, so I'm going to go ahead and add in another box of this. I'm going to turn off my meatballs and pull them out of the oven here in a second. And then the last ingredient before we assemble everything, I'm going to use this frozen kale. You could also use spinach if you prefer spinach. I like this frozen kale because this brand specifically, it is chopped very small. If you can see that, it's tiny little bite-sized pieces. Perfect for a soup. So all we're going to do is put some kale in here, give that a chance to cook. I'm using about half this bag. Okay, so I'm going to drop these meatballs into the soup. I don't know if I'll want all of them or not, maybe. But I want to give them a chance to kind of flavor the soup even more. So I'm just going to let them simmer while the kale is cooking. I don't want to bring it up to a full boil. Just a nice gentle simmer. Yeah, why not? We'll add them all in. So this is what it looks like before we add in our couscous. We're gonna give this a minute to cook and then we'll taste and wrap up. Okay, go ahead and take a look at this Italian wedding soup. And the cool thing about doing the couscous on the side is you can put as much or as little of that as you want. Oh, I can't wait to taste it. So I'm gonna taste a bite without a chicken meatball. I love it. And having the kale that small makes it really easy to chew. Okay, so I said do bite size, but I'm still gonna cut my meatball in half here. That is legit. That's so good. You know, it'd be really good on top is a little bit of Parmesan cheese. I might have some in the fridge, so I might grab that before I call the family down for dinner, but that and like a big piece of crusty bread, and you got yourself a very healthy winter soup that is hearty and filling. I think hearty and filling are the same thing. That is hearty and delicious. Thank you so much for joining me on this video. Make sure you check out a bunch of my other content, and I will see you on the next one.